Hello and welcome to Faith Matters. On this programme, we look at what's happening across the Liverpool Merseyside city region through the prism of faith and belief. And my guest today is Dene Donalds. Dene is a Zen practitioner and a mindfulness teacher. Welcome. Dene, just tell us about Zen Buddhism, the origins of Zen Buddhism, how it differs from other kinds of Buddhism.
Okay, Zen Buddhism, it originates from Japan. A guy called Bodhidharma in the 6th century popped across to China and taught the Dharma, or the teachings of the Buddha, to the Chinese, which is called Chan Buddhism. And then it moved to Japan and has taken on the Zen name, really, which the West has got hold of, which I don't know why.
In the 60s, it was kind of a big thing, wasn't it, with Allen Ginsberg and of course he came to Liverpool. I don't know if the Beatles were interested in it, but
No,
it was kind of popularised then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And so, how does it differ from other forms of Buddhism?
That's interesting because Zen Buddhism is about practice. It's about doing it. It's about being in the present. It doesn't rely too heavily on scripture. It doesn't rely too heavily on artifacts. So it's more about taking Buddhism off the cushion. It's more about being mindful, being present, being still, being at ease. But it isn't just about meditating. It's about, when you're in everyday life, being at ease, being at peace. Rather than a number of Buddhist teachings rely on artifacts, rely on scripture, rely on theology, rely on heady stuff, which Buddhism doesn't do too much.
Okay, so it's kind of simple without being simplistic. It's a practical belief system, would you say?
Yeah, it's a practical belief system. You can take Buddhism into the world. You can become engaged in the world. You can come out of, if you're a monastic, you can come out of the temple and practice in society. Whereas a lot of other Buddhist beliefs are very much around the, dare I say it, dogma, are very much around ritual, are very much around keeping Buddhism as a spiritual belief within the temple rather than getting out there and doing something with it.
Okay.
But I am a Zen Buddhist, by the way, so I would say that.
You would say that, yeah, okay. And so how long have you been into this stuff? How did you get into it?
Oh, that's a really good question. How many minutes do we have left?
We've got 11 minutes per half, as it were, yeah. And I'll let you know. So
Okay.
You know, our viewers are interested, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
In 2001, I took the 5 precepts, which are about reverence for life, which are about being generous, which are about right conduct, which are about loving speech and deep listening, and which are about mindful consumption, i.e. not taking in everything that you've got. Yeah, everything that comes into you, you don't have to take it in. You can be aware of what's coming in and discard some stuff, work with some stuff. So I did that in 2001. And in 2007, I became lay ordained, and I took 14 mindfulness trainings. Also, in 2001, I took the 3 jewels, which is belief in the Buddha nature, being awake, the Dharma, which is the Buddhist teachings, and the Sangha, which is a community of practice. And we put a lot of store on in that we think that without Sangha, without a community of practice, then it's very difficult to actually be a Zen Buddhist because you lose your way. One thing that really excites me about this tradition is the first mindfulness training that I took from the 14. Would it be okay if I just
Yeah,
just read
absolutely.
it? It's short.
Okay.
I'll need my glasses. So this is the first mindfulness training that I was transmitted to and aspire to work within society. And the mindfulness training is called openness. So, aware of the suffering created by fanaticism, intolerance, we are determined not to be idolatrous about or bound by any doctrine, theory, or ideology, even Buddhist ones. We're committed to seeing the Buddhist teachings as only guiding means that help us to learn to look deeply and develop understanding and compassion. They're not doctrines to fight, kill, or die for. And we understand that fanaticism in its many forms is a result of dualistic thinking. So we train ourselves to look at everything with openness and insight of into being. Into being isn't in the English dictionary, but it's about everything being interconnected, and there isn't duality. And accept everything with openness and judge it. Yep, look into it, but don't close off. Don't close off. And I guess that's why I'm with this tradition.
Yeah, I like that. I'm influenced by a writer called Richard Rohr. I don't know if you've come across him, a Christian writer.
Know the name, but
a Catholic writer. And he says much the same thing, that, you know, Jesus was really about transcending kind of religious doctrine, and but somehow we've kind of shrunken back from that challenge of his. But so, would you say that Buddhism is a religion?
That's really interesting, but I've just got to respond to what you said.
Do.
I was at a retreat with my Zen master, a guy called Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Zen peace activist who was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Martin Luther King about in the 60s. And he was asked just a few years ago, he was asked, do you have any blocks to being a Buddhist? And he said, yes, Buddhism. So I totally with you.
Kind of, was he saying then Buddhism was a religion then? That was the block, the kind of religiosity of Buddhism. All our belief systems, is there danger that all our belief systems become religious in the sense of the meaning of the word, which means to bind rather than to loose or set free? What do you think about that?
It can be very much so. Some people would see Buddhism as a religion, even in terms of the way that we behave, i.e. there's bowing, there's prostrations, quite often there's a Buddha on the altar, and that's just an image of somebody that is at peace, that is at ease, that has understanding. That is just a person there. And when I look at the Buddha on the altar, quite often I don't have a Buddha on the altar, by the way. I might just have a flower. And sometimes when I'm on retreat, I've just come back off retreat, facilitating a retreat, and there was just a flower there, was not a Buddha there. But when there is a Buddha there, I see that image for what it is, somebody at peace and awake, and that's it. However, a number of Buddhist traditions resemble what most people would see as religious behavior. And yes.
So there's veneration.
Yes,
of the Buddha.
Yes, there is, and there's a lot of devotion. There's a lot of devotional practice towards the Buddha. However, in some traditions, including my own, we are encouraged fiercely, in a peaceful way, of course, because we're Buddhists, fiercely to analyze and investigate everything we are. This is the discourses that I work to are in here, but we are told to look at them with rigor before we take them on board, and look at them again and look at them again. Some would say Buddhism is a religion. Some would say it's a way of life. So
do you celebrate the Buddhist festivals like a Vesak Day, which is the Buddha's birthday, which is coming up, I think, on June the 1st. Is that right? I looked at. I looked on the web.
This guy's good.
I was confused because there were two different dates.
One in May.
There was one in May. So do you celebrate the Buddha's birthday? And I assume these other traditions do make a big deal of it.
A number of traditions make a big deal of it, and why not? And I might and I might not go. I might go for it. I might go along to celebration as well. I work in prisons as a chaplain, and I will it will be a big day. There will be food, there will be celebration. We will sit and we will enjoy the day that the Buddha became awake, enlightened. However, there are a number of people that do not put a lot of store on that particular way of celebration.
So you work in prisons in Merseyside?
Yeah.
Are you able to say where, or maybe not?
No, I won't say where.
Okay, right. Yeah. Okay, and so the Buddhist chaplain.
Yeah.
And Is there an interest in? I know there's an interest in Islam and in Christianity in prisons. Maybe it's a place where you. It is a place where you're of introspection, where you look at yourself, don't you? Yeah.
I'd say that there is interest. I get great joy from working in prisons and secure, and not just prison, but also secure hospital environments as well, where I go with a Buddhist hat on, and I get great joy in it. And the reason I get great joy from it is that the people that come are doing exactly what you've said. They really are passionate about using their time to look at themselves and to transform, because Buddhism is about transformation. It's about looking at your suffering and looking at it deeply, not running away from it by watching TV or eating lots of cake or whatever your thing is, and trying to take that suffering and turn it into something else. And the people that generally come to me are people that have a genuine, passionate interest in looking at the suffering, looking generally at their anger or something else, and seeing if they can use that energy to become happier and more at peace. So I really do love that work.
And you had a background in mental health, which we won't go into now because we're about to come to our break. But that's great. After our break, we're going to just talk about mindfulness, which is your other, well, not your other passion, is part of the passion. So we're now going to go to our commercial break, and we'll see you with Dene Donalds afterwards. Welcome back to Faith Matters and to our guest, Dene Donalds, Zen Buddhist practitioner and mindfulness trainer. I first met you when I sneaked into a course, a Mercy Care course. I'm giving it all away now. On mindfulness-based stress reduction. Have I got that right? Okay. So, you're a mindfulness trainer. What's the connection? You've already mentioned mindfulness as a kind of discipline. What's the connection between Zen Buddhism and mindfulness? Are they indistinguishable?
No, I don't think they are indistinguishable. Mindfulness is just one important but major element of Buddhism. There's a number of other major elements of Buddhism, and mindfulness is one of them. But Jon Kabat-Zinn, who developed MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, says, because Newton discovered gravity, does that mean that gravity is purely English, Well, it isn't, is it? No. Christians can be I'd like to take the word mindfulness out of our vocabulary. Christians can be present, can be aware, can be focused on what they're doing, can be at ease in the world. You don't have to be a Buddhist to be awake.
Yeah.
Anybody can be awake. You don't even have to be religious. You can be sick. So there's a connection, there's an element of mindfulness in the Eightfold Path, which is a significant teaching of the Buddha. However, anybody can be present. I hope everybody is.
You talked a little bit, what is mindfulness? Because, many of our viewers won't know exactly what, they would have heard of it because it's very popular, but what is it exactly as a discipline?
Mindfulness is about teaching oneself to stay in the present moment, to be focused, not to be worried about the past, not to be anxious about the future, to just be here and now, present with what is happening. However, it's really difficult in today's modern world with TV, music, the emails where everybody expects you to react.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's absolutely bonkers. So it's a way of coming back home, coming back to the present, being in the here and the now. And like when you go to the gym, in order to build the muscles up, you have to do it regularly. With mindfulness, to stay in the present and not be distracted by the constant demands of the 21st century, we have to practice it with lots of different methods or techniques which aren't necessarily Buddhist. I just happen to be a Buddhist, but you don't need to be Buddhist to practice this stuff.
And you think that you talked about the pressures of 21st century living, particularly the technological pressures, work pressures, and so on, the stresses. Do you think that is driving the popularity of mindfulness? Because you see it everywhere now. When I started doing it, somebody said, "Oh, you are trendy. So what, and you're just a trendy vicar. You're now doing mindfulness.
You are a trendy vicar.
Yeah, is that true? Is the kind of pressures we're living in driving this appeal?
My belief is that that is the case. However, there's significant research at the moment, validated research, which there's a lot of research which proves that if you are mindful, then it reduces the probability of certain types of depression. It's prescribed within the NHS. Some of my colleagues and myself are being asked by significant corporate organisations to go into their organisations and teach mindfulness because they know it improves performance. Yeah. So this world that we live in is pushing it towards mindfulness, but at the same time, large organisations that want better performance, less sickness, more stability within their staff, are actually also using it to get even more out of people.
Okay, so you talked about its compatibility, so it's compatible with anybody really, from a secular mindset through to, a Christian mindset. We talked about this earlier before the program started, that there are people on the Christian spectrum, if you like, who see mindfulness as the kind of back door to another religion, another religious worldview, and worry about that. What would you say to these people?
I'd say that there isn't a need to worry. There isn't a need to worry because mindfulness is just about a number of methods which allow you to be in the present moment. There isn't going to be any Buddhas, there isn't going to be any incense, there isn't going to be anything to do with an ism at all, any ism. It's purely a technique, a method, proven research-wise, used in our NHS, funded by CCGs, to reduce the anxiety, depression, and sheer frantic way of living within our society today. And if corporate organisations are asking for people like me to go into their organisations to work with their staff, there must be something right about it.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I could vouch for that, having done one of your courses. That there was no Buddhas and no incense. There was a couple of candles and a bell, which I found quite pleasant.
Mindfulness bell, yeah.
Yeah, so it's about breathing, right? So that's one of the techniques.
Do you want us to go there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Talk about the breathing.
So one way, everybody breathes. If you don't breathe, you're in really big trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed?
Yeah.
So one method we use is by coming back to the breath. So if you just follow the breath, I won't do it now because I've only got about 3 or 4 minutes left. But if you just follow the breath and that's your only focus, what you'll find is your mind wanders off because it's so used to lots of stimulus going on all over the place. And all we ask is when that happens, which it will hundreds of times, that all you do is just keep coming back to the breath. Other ways, if that isn't the best way for you, is using your physicality. So if you're sitting on a chair, you notice the leg on the chair and what that feels like. Yeah, that is mindfulness. Just paying attention to your physicality.
So it's bringing you back to the moment.
Bringing you back to the present moment. Not being carried away by anxieties about the future, the argument that you had with your wife or your partner in the past. Just coming back, and eventually your heartbeat will reduce, your blood pressure will reduce, your inbuilt neurotic behaviour will reduce, and lots of evidence to prove that your well-being does improve significantly.
Yeah, I know that our former Archbishop, Rowan Williams, who is a great man of prayer, known for his prayerfulness.
Yes.
I read, in fact, I think it was an article in The Guardian where he was saying that he practiced meditation, which he derived from the Buddhist tradition, he said, which I assume is mindfulness meditation. Right. He does this 25 minutes a day before he prays. And one of the releasing things I found about mindfulness is that our tradition, the Christian tradition, is very wordy. Yeah. But I was interested to hear you say that there are some aspects or some corners of Buddhism that are also quite wordy, and we can get over, particularly again in this, in the internet age, we can just get overlaid by kind of words, and to be kind of set free for that by silence. That's a key thing of it.
I think it is. However, we shouldn't get caught up in silence. One of the techniques that we offer on the MBS mindfulness-based stress reduction course is a walking meditation. So you park your car at the end of the car park, and the only thing you do before you come into this wonderful studio is focus on your walking. So you're not walking to get anywhere, to get to this TV program. Your only focus is your feet on the earth as you're walking. Yep. Or your feet on the earth as you're going to the supermarket. And that does a similar thing to silence, to breathing. It brings you back to the present moment because your focus is purely on the walking, not on what you're going to do when you get to the shop, not on the drive to get there, just that present moment. Okay,
now we're going to just talk. We've got a minute or so left, just over a minute. We're going to talk about your retreats.
Hey.
What kind of retreats do you lead?
Okay, well, I obviously do lead Zen Buddhist retreat. In fact, may I?
Yeah,
there is one coming up on the 22nd of August, 2015 in Stourbridge.
Oh, I'll take one of those.
Take one of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey. Okay.
To the camera. Yeah.
And that is, there's a number of monastics coming from a place called Plum Village in Bordeaux. It's really terrible. I have to go to Bordeaux to practice,
Yeah.
Terrible place to go to. And then I'm running a secular retreat in October at Swarthmore Hall, which is a Quaker venue, actually. But it's very secular. There'll be no religion attached, and that's in October.
And these are on your website?
If people want to contact me at dean@thelisteningpartner.cc, dean@thelisteningpartner.cc, or get hold of me at Dene Donalds LinkedIn, then I can tell them more.
And you have got a website, haven't you?
I've been yes, the listening. Oh no, it's still there.
Partner,
yeah, the listening partner.
Are you keeping it updated?
It's still there.
Is it in the present moment?
I'd say perhaps I'm getting a little bit too caught in the past. But it's still there. It's still there.
Reminding you.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Dean, it's really great to see you, and we haven't seen each other for a while. Great to see you, and great to have you on the show. And we'll get you back again. Maybe in discussing with somebody else.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, and thanks to our listeners, and see you for the next episode of Faith Matters.